Welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me. It's September 11th, 2025. It is also Thursday. So I would like to take a short moment to remember this is Ground Zero, which is the memorial for 9/11, Twin Towers in New York. So with all of this and everything going on today, let's get started with what's going on in the markets. Fear Grade Meter right at the top because the markets are all about emotion when people will buy or sell. We're right in neutral territory at 50. So, kind of holding here and waiting for the reports today. So, our daily driver really is inflation because the jobs numbers were quite abysmal. So, the market right now is pricing in at least 25 point rate cut. There is also on Polymarket a little bit more, a couple of others saying 50, possibly even more. I think it's going to be 25. It's not until next week. However, the CPI report that comes out today will kind of affect that because if the numbers are way off, then it could affect the forward look on that. So, yesterday had PPI come out and it played perfectly into what they needed to hear as far as the markets to maintain this rate cut coming next Wednesday. Now, we've got a couple of other things that I would like to speak about that I believe are much greater concern. We've also, not to mention, got the ECB decision ahead, but they're very minimal in the larger scheme of what's going on in these bond markets as well as the corporate world. Now, we've got Adobe to report. Howard Lutnick is pushing for government ownership, not just in Intel, but also in the defense giants, sparking concern on Wall Street. Well, if you are the government in charge of the military and you're looking at getting into the defense sector of the stock market, I would say that's a little bit of a conflict of interest. But that's just me. Corporatocracy is growing, and this is a major concern. The government has proven that they are the most inefficient entity globally. So, to allow them in charge of more corporations, really, it doesn't even make sense. So, other than moving to a corporatocracy full on where there is control, there is no sense in that whatsoever. Capital markets run much more efficiently when they are free to do so and find themselves a market. But we have not had that in quite some time. And if you've been here, you know how they're manipulating the numbers and everything behind it. So, speaking of which, controlling the Federal Reserve, which is not federal and have nothing in reserves, we've got Steve Moran has passed the Senate Banking Committee. So, we've got a political appointee that is now going to be on the Federal Reserve Board as well. So, they are the ones controlling all of this in the background. So, with all of that in mind and a clear understanding that all of this is quite manipulated, let's take a look at the numbers in the charts, what they're saying that will drive the markets as far as their emotion. So 10-year yield down 4.050, barely above that 4%. I believe it's going to hold there. If it drops below, that is extremely concerning, just as it is in a spike, because it's got the opposite issues. Now, relative strength of the dollar is still below 98, although it has gained a bit since yesterday. Now, I want to point out, because I've gotten comments about this, this is the relative strength of the dollar, not the purchasing power. Very different, two completely different things. The price you pay at the grocery store is not affected by this relative strength of the dollar. This is simply the standing on the world currencies as far as affecting probably more on high end the cost of trade and a few other things. So with this, cryptocurrencies recovering quite well. Bitcoin's now above 113,000. We're watching a shift into different assets. And interestingly enough, the only one down again is Doge, opening up for ETF trading. Solana has a couple of positive things going for it that they're opening up. So we'll watch that one to the positive side. So, with all of this inflation going on yesterday, wholesale inflation cooling for August. So, this is perfect to lend to the rate cuts for next week, as I said, and the CPI, which is coming out in the next within the next hour or so, will tell us. They're saying it's the most crucial data for stock investors this week, and that's because they're going to be reacting, if you will, and it's all going to be about the easy money or the rate cuts for next week. So, stock market getting a bit weak, little bit mixed. Futures not looking so good, but it's going to be dependent on what they come out and say with this afterwards. Gold and silver poised to remain strong, at least for the time. They might have a bit of a pullback. This, I don't really count that. It's pretty much flat. Would be a purchasing opportunity, not financial advice, but it's looking to be stronger for the long term. We've got oil up on. This is very interesting because there's two things at play here. The first is the geopolitical problems going on here, and the second is demand. We've got a drop in demand, but the geopolitical concerns are rising. So, crude oil in a very interesting place, no trade zone for me at the moment. Taking a look at the calendar, we're going to take a look. CPI, of course, coming out, and initial jobless claims prior to the market open 8:30. And then Friday, they're saying consumer sentiment, but that's really not a player in this realm because we're watching consumer sentiment play out real time with what's going on in the markets. We do have some very interesting bits here coming out. The first is Amazon. Now, Bezos is looking to kind of compete directly with Elon Musk. Zoox is their version of the free automated robotaxi rides. They're giving them out Las Vegas Strip, challenging Tesla and Waymo. Now, Tesla and Waymo pretty much have the corner on this. There are a couple of other players in the United States. However, getting into this realm as well as launching satellites for the satellite internet and the space rockets. So, Amazon looking a bit positive here. Apple came out with their event, but unfortunately, they just got a downgrade this morning, and their event didn't come out quite as they had planned. So, looking a little bit weak, did have a bit of a recovery, but little caution on that one. Now, here is another conflict of interest with the government spending. The Navy just awarded drone contracts to the big five defense contractors. And I want to call out these names and be very clear about these. The first being Boeing. Now, we've watched a lot of government bolstering and intervention on their behalf of late. And this is why I've been speaking about them being more of a defense contractor than just aviation. So, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, at General Atomics, Lockheed, and Anduril. Now, Anduril is the one that has been working the most closely with Palantir. So, those are going to be the ones that are structuring this background control. And in my opinion, they are the ones to watch. We can talk about that later, but not on this platform. And I would also like to bring up sad news. Charlie Kirk, he did get assassinated at the Utah event yesterday. Now, bringing this up because this is poised to become a massive geopolitical tool for a couple of directions that they can head. So you're going to see a lot of things happen here with this, and you're going to be hearing about it more in the news. Even if you're not in the United States, it's another version of never let a good crisis go to waste. So I really want to cover this is not the markets necessarily. However, the EU, they've got chat control hinging on Germany's decision. Now, they've proposed this chat control law, and they need a few more populists in the vote in order to pass the EU Council. And Germany has enough of these numbers that they could change the balance. Now, I just want to talk about this for a moment. It was put forward by Denmark, but this law essentially eliminates encrypted messaging. It requires all of the message platforms such as Telegram, WhatsApp, Signal to allow regulators to screen their messages before they are encrypted and sent. So, full government control in this sector, and they want Germany to pass this. With the current administration under Merz, um, could very well happen. So, the EU going full under control and surveillance status. We've got, speaking of OpenAI, CEO Sam Altman urging artificial intelligence privilege to stop potential government snooping. So, saying this on the other side, however, he's always got it in the back end control that AI has the ability to look into everything that everybody's doing. So on the surface, it looks a little more friendly. However, deep down, if you look behind it, again, this is a push to the corporatocracy and the control. These are the companies that are going to be doing it, and it is unfolding in real time. We've been speaking about this called conspiracy theories, but it's coming to play. So, something else interesting of note, this is Madame Ursula von der Leyen. So, both the right and the left have put forward on the table. She is facing two separate motions of a vote for no confidence, which I find very interesting that she is fallen in with the moderates. Both sides are having issues with her. So we'll see with this shake-up. We've got a lot of political turmoil, not just in France, but it is rippling out in a lot of ways. And trust me, this will be used to their advantage the best that they can. So with this, I wish you all a wonderful day. If you're trading, I hope you're in the green. And until I see you again, my friends, resist.